Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GGTV back with another video, and in this video we are going to be talking about the 76th overall episode of The Sopranos, the 11th of the 6th season. Yeah, we've been kind of going crazy on this show quite recently, so this is probably one of the last reviews of this show we're going to do for the next couple of days, because we have the play-in tournament coming up. So this is pretty much, replacing not having basketball on. So yeah, a decent amount has happened. We get a couple, final appearances, a couple deaths. It's pretty huge episode. This is a huge story plot ploy. This is a huge deal. A lot kind of took place in this episode. So this is one of the more impactful so far of the series, I would say. And yeah, we're just going to kind of talk about it for a little bit, have a bit of a discussion at the end. You guys know how these videos go. Formatted quite similarly, every time. So, let's go. So, yeah, gonna keep it kind of short and sweet here. So, Carmela discovers that AJ was fired from his job and has kept this a secret for 3 weeks. This whole time, she goes in a blockbuster, she's looking around, she can't see AJ when he's supposed to be on the clock, and she realizes that he hasn't been working there for a very long time. Obviously, he's been lying to, dodge responsibilities. We know how AJ is, we know how he gets, we've learned about him throughout the show. Tony watches as AJ types on a chat room and giggles. Disgusted, he tells Dr. Melfi that he hates his son. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? This is not the kid that I raised. This is not the son of a mob boss. What are we doing here? This kid is sitting here just lives online all freaking day. Doesn't have a job. Doesn't do any of that type of stuff. And Tony's, quite ashamed of this. And, this whole this whole run of the show, they've been trying to turn this kid around, and they just can't do it. So she points out that Tony wishes his mother protected him as Carmela protects AJ. Which is kind of true, Dr. Melfi brings up all sorts of really good points, throughout their therapy sessions. Tony finds AJ a construction job and gently encourages him to do good. He's not trying to use this brash force, and he does kind of, take Dr. Melfi's advice. Be a little gentle on the kid. You can coach him up, you can parent him, you can discipline him, but be a little gentle. But when AJ slightly resists him, Tony smashes the windshield of AJ's car, warning, "Don't put me to the test." He's he's sending him a warning. He's like, "You're not gonna get away with this time. You have to have responsibilities. You have to get a job. You have to do all sorts of these things." That's a really good parenting moment from Tony. He did this the best the best parenting moment for him probably in the entire show. So, Meadow tells her parents she is moving to California to be with Finn, which is, it just sounds like trouble, moving away from your homeland, pretty much, hometown, and going with this guy that doesn't seem like he's up to much. He's trying to find jobs, he's trying to succeed. I don't know, it's a really weird moment, really weird decision for Meadow there. So Carmela visits Paris with Rosalie. She's telling Tony she won this Paris trip at a silent auction. And Tony's like, what, treat yourself, go on this trip, have some fun. You deserve it. You've been dealing with so much, all this stuff. So she reacts to the ancient city with the emotional intensity and thoughts about past and future life and death. It really makes her sit back and think. That's how beautiful the art in Paris is. Yeah, you don't really blame her. You're looking around, you see all these sculptures, you see all this gold and all this marble and all this crazy shit. Paris is a wonderful place. I haven't been there, but looking at pictures and stuff, I bet it's so surreal in person. So, in a dream, she sees Adriana walking her dog by the Eiffel Tower. A gendarme says in English, "Your friend, someone needs to tell her she's dead." It's kind of a fucked up dream. That's a wild, wild dream to have. This show does kind of dip into the fantasy aspects, but I guess that's a dream someone could have. Very guilt-ridden is Carmela when she has this. Yeah, it's a very strange moment. So anyway, Vito unexpectedly approaches Tony at a mall and tries to convince him he is not really homosexual. Obviously, in the last episode, we saw Vito coming back to Jersey, going through the whole old neighborhood, and now he wants to confront Tony, make things right, try to maybe smooth things over and get back into the group. He has to buy his way back into the crew, proposing to run a business in Atlantic City involving prostitution and meth trafficking. He can do stuff from afar. He doesn't have to, come to these meetings, come to these dinners, show up to the Bing, all this stuff. He doesn't need to do any of that. If they don't want him around, he doesn't have to, but he still wants to be a part of this thing. So, Tony brings up the offer with Silvio, Christopher, and Paulie, who are not in favor. I mean, no one is. This guy's a homosexual. They're very homophobic, obviously. I don't support stuff like this, but obviously it is a custom in the mafia. So, Vito has a reunion lunch with his family, telling his children that he has been working as an undercover spy in Afghanistan and that they must never speak about his return. He's trying to, create a cover for his kids, make it look like he isn't a homosexual, and that he didn't ditch his past life because everyone found out about it. So, and there's a really sad scene towards the end of the show. He phones Jim, who totally rebuffs him. No one is messing with this guy. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. Tony has already had a business dispute with Phil, who is now the acting boss of the Lupertazzi family. Now that Johnny has taken this deal full on, they do not mess with him anymore. He is not welcome in that crime family. So now Phil Leotardo is officially the boss of that family. So when they meet again, Phil is angry to learn that Vito is back in town. He's heard in the grapevine. He's telling Tony, I thought you were going to fucking take care of this guy and make sure he never comes back. And Phil Leotardo obviously has really strong feelings about this because Marie is his sister, I believe. I think it's his sister, yeah. So Tony decides that he can't keep protecting Vito and begins planning his murder. He's like, yeah, we got to get this guy out of here, and I should probably be the one to do it. Make it short and quick. However, when Vito returns that night to his motel room, he is attacked by New York mobsters Fat Dom Gamiello and Jerry Torciano, who knock him down and duct tape his mouth. Yeah, this is a very horrific scene. It's all run by Phil Leotardo, too. Vito mutely pleads for his life as Phil walks out of the closet and watches Dom and Gary beat him to death with pool cues. And, just pretty pointy thing. How ironic is that? And obviously we find out later on some very gruesome details about it. The way of what was his name? Phil walked out of the closet it's kind of funny. Like it's a joke. Like coming out of the closet. I'm kind of thinking about that now. That's pretty damn funny. Like if I'm being honest. And the way he did walk out was so dramatic. It was pretty hilarious. Like. They made a death funny somehow. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going to start bleeding out my nose. I'm just going to ignore it. But, Tony understands that Phil is sending a message that he can kill one of Tony's capos, and Tony cannot do anything about it, establishing some ground, asserting some dominance. He decides to hit back at Phil financially, noting that he has a wire room in Sheepshed Bay. Like, he's got to get his revenge. And Phil should probably understand that, but, yeah. So, while Sil and Carlo are at Satrial's, Dom arrives to make a payment and starts making crude jokes about Vito. Like, yeah, he's gay, but, that was still a guy who was a part of the crime family, so there was no reason for them to just take that, So when he begins to joke that Carlo and Vito were involved romantically, Sil and Carlo impulsively attack and kill him. I mean, that's just the brute reality of this show sometimes. You can get killed for making jokes. Like, it's crazy. And that's kind of why I like this show, because they're not afraid to do something wild. Tony shows up, sees what has happened, and wordlessly exits, leaving Sil and Carlo to deal with the corpse. I mean, Tony's not going to deal with it. It's not his thing. It's not his responsibility. So when Vito's murder is reported in the newspaper, Francesca and Vito Jr. learn about their father's occupation and homosexuality, which is extremely fucked. It's a really cruel way, really messed up way for them to learn about that. Yeah, that sucks, being the children of a father they thought had, a genuine life. But he turned out to be a mob boss, or a mob member, sorry. But obviously, we're told that Jim Witkowski will not be appearing on the show anymore. He was the owner of a local diner in Datford, New Hampshire, and Vito's ex-boyfriend, obviously. Obviously, Vito, called him, and he was pissed. And then, obviously, Vito Spatafora was beaten to death with a pool cue by Dominic Fat Dom Gamiello and Jerry Torciano on orders from Phil Leotardo. And then Dominic, Fat Dom Gamiello, which is crazy because he died shortly after this, was stabbed to death by Carlo Gervasi while being held by Silvio Dante in the back room of Satrial's for making some super messed up jokes about There's very messed up jokes about Vito. Like, again, I understand, it makes sense. Like, they don't like homosexual people. They're very homophobic. So when they find out that one of their like main guys, one of their main men, one of their capos, comes out as that, and everyone finds out, yeah, they're gonna like kill him. Like, it goes against their customs, which I don't respect really. But yeah, it is what it is. The mafia, it's some tough shit. But obviously the aftermath of that death, the tension between Tony and Phil is going to get kind of crazy. There's a lot of things kind of building up. We'll have to see what happens with Meadow and Rosalie. Really not much else is going on, but still a really good show, still a really good season so far. So yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I am out. I'm actually going to start editing my future video, future Metro Boomin. They dropped that. They had the disc 2 as well, and we didn't cover that the first time. So I was going to kind of plan on doing like 2 parts. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to be doing NBA playoff predictions pretty much right before the play-in games start. I actually need to get that video done before the play-in games start. I should try at least. But I'll have it recorded by then. I just need to try to get it done. So